Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
International Space Station is ready for the event.
CBS Radio Network, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Space Station, this is Bill Harwood, CBS News. How do you hear me?
Hey, Bill, great to talk to you. I have you loud and clear.
Hey, Reed, thanks a lot for taking time to chat with us. I want to get around to your preparations for landing next Monday and review your mission a little bit. But first, I wanted to touch on last week's space news and the loss of the Cygnus cargo ship. And then, of course, Virgin Galactic Spaceship 2. They've really focused a lot of attention down here on the commercial space program, as it's known anyway. And I was wondering what thoughts you might have on both of those setbacks.
Well, Bill, you know, it's tough to watch anything like that, and I have friends at both of those companies that are working on this, and you know, that touches me pretty closely. A couple of them are test pilots that I've worked with in the past, and I've gotten to know pretty well. So for us personally, it's always tough to see that sort of thing. The great part about this industry is it will be better at the end for both of these mistakes or these mishaps, I'll say. And we'll pull through. Everybody right now is already pulled together, and the research is going on, the investigations are ongoing, and we'll figure out what happened. And if it's the correct time, we'll fly again, both of these vehicles. And if they determine that they can't, then we'll look for other options down the road. But I definitely think this is a setback that happens in this industry, and there will be recovery, there will be healing, and then there will be success down the road.
Reed, you know, we talked before launch about risk. Back before you took off in May, and you clearly think the benefits of space exploration outweigh those risks. But you know, you're a test pilot and astronaut, so your perspective is perhaps a little bit different. How should the public look at the risk of space flight now that we're, you know, more than a half a century into this? It's still obviously a dangerous undertaking.
Well, anytime humans try to contain the amount of energy that's required to send stuff into orbit, you know, every once in a while, a little bit of that is going to escape, and we're going to have an accident. And this is never going to be a perfectly safe environment, especially not in the launch and landing industry. And but every time you get in your car and you drive down the highway, there's always a chance, or get in an airplane, or even just a thunderstorm passes by and knocks a tree over. So that's part of life, and there's always risk with everything we do. And to me, sometimes the risk is definitely worth the reward. And up here, the reward, at least to me, is huge. So it's worth it.
Do you think commercial piloted spaceflight with human beings on board, do you think that the technology is there? Do you think that that's an endeavor that's worth pursuing at this stage in the history of space exploration?
Hey, absolutely, 100%. You got to dare to do crazy things, and that's what my friends out at Scale Composites did a number of years back. And I was there the first time that they flew totally civilian crew into above 300,000 feet, and the joy that I had watching that event was amazing. I was there with my wife. She was then my fiance, and it was a great trip. And I'm proud of those guys. Everything they've accomplished, it's amazing. And the technology is there. There's going to be speed bumps along the way, but this is the next breakthrough, and I think we're ready for it.
Reed, let me turn your attention to the space station briefly here. You know, the Orbital Sciences Cygnus cargo ship that was lost last week had about 5,000 pounds of supplies and equipment, including quite a bit of research gear. I know you guys have plenty of consumables on board. But how big a setback was that in terms of science? Just what's your perspective on that?
Well, certainly this vehicle it was wall-to-wall science. It was loaded, much more than some of the previous ones had been. So for the program, it's certainly a disappointment to lose that science. Now, on the flip side, it was just science, and we can rebuild. All of these experiments can be rebuilt, and I know NASA is already in the works to rebuild these and refly these. So the lessons that we would have learned from the science, we may have to wait a year, we may have to wait 2 or 3 years before we get this stuff back up here. But we will get these experiments up here, and we'll do that work.
Hey, you know, one last question on this line. Depending on how long it takes Orbital Sciences to find and fix the problem with their Antares rocket, the station really in the near term is limited to resupply through Progress and obviously commercial SpaceX flights out of the States. Do you have any concerns about long-range resupply with one of your major suppliers now down for an indefinite period?
Well, I'd really like to rephrase that a little, if I may, and say that what an unbelievable time where we're flying Russian cargo ships and 2 different types of U.S. cargo vehicles up here and docked right now to the back of the space station behind the camera is a European resupply ship. And then we still have the Japanese HTV, which will be launching down the road. So we have diversity. We have risk management through our diversity in these cargo vehicles. And to me, this just demonstrates exactly why we went down this path, and we wanted more than one supplier, more than one vendor. And I think that those decisions now, in hindsight, are perfect. And we have all the faith in the world that we're going to continue the mission and continue conducting the science fully.
Understood. Well, let me turn your attention to landing a little bit. You're coming home in a week's time, and you know, I've watched how much fun you've had up there. I've enjoyed the photos on Twitter and all the things you've had to share with the public about your mission. What are you going to miss the most about the whole experience of flying on board the station? Okay.
That's exactly what I'm going to miss the most. I'm going to miss the whole experience of flying on station. I'm going to miss my crewmates. Right now I'm up here with 5 other amazing folks, and certainly I'm going to miss the floating. There is just nothing better as a human being than to experience something so foreign as weightlessness. And then I'm going to miss the view. It's just incredible to go look outside and see that Earth down there with the blue horizon. It's so beautiful. I will miss that, absolutely. And then, again, I'm going to miss the work. Really, the work up here, I didn't expect this, but it turns out it's actually really fun. And I love doing the science. I love working with the team on the ground. So from start to end of my day, I'm going to miss it all.
Let me ask the other side of that question. Besides seeing your family and friends, obviously, is there anything in particular you're looking forward to on the ground, whether it's food or some exercise activity? I don't know what I'm trying to say, sports. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to hugging my wife and kids. That's number one, but you already mentioned that. And then just being able to select the food that I want to eat. I think that I really am looking forward to. The food up here is actually pretty good, but over 6 months, it'll be nice to be able to just get in the car and drive to the store and grab whatever I want, and then have my kitchen at my disposal to make some good food. But something has struck me in the last couple of weeks, and I've started talking about it. I really can't wait to just sit down on a couch. I haven't sat down in 160 days, and just that feeling of sitting down and having gravity pull me down onto a chair, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't imagine, but then again, I really can't imagine. This is your first space flight, obviously. It's your first return to Earth aboard a Soyuz. You're a test pilot. What are you looking forward to about that experience, the re-entry on the Russian spacecraft?
I'm looking forward to experiencing it. Everyone I talk to says it's the world's greatest roller coaster ride, and I think nothing can mentally prepare me for this except going through it. So let's just go through it, and then I'm sure I'll have some great stories on the other side to share with you.
You mentioned a minute ago the views of the Earth. One of the questions I jotted down to myself was there anything in particular that you've seen up there that will stand out more than something else? Any particular site on the ground below that you found really particularly striking?
All of it? I don't know, just in really quick, watching Saharan sands blow across the Atlantic, looking down at ocean currents, seeing the hurricanes and typhoons, and really, I think the biggest thing that I will take away from this is watching our Earth change over the 6 months that I've been up here, watching the weather patterns change, seeing summer, fall, and now into winter. It really it makes you realize that we don't just live on Earth. Earth is just a part of all of us. I really love looking out the window at that.
Reed, you've set the bar, I think, to stratospheric levels on social media. It's been something a lot of us have really enjoyed, looking at your pictures on Twitter and your Vine images, your Vine videos, and things like that. How has that gone, and what's the feedback? What have you heard up there about how that's done and how the public's responded?
Oh, I think the feedback's been super, so I'm really excited about that. This is my first space flight, like you said, and I just wanted to try to share some of the newness, some of the uniqueness of this environment, and I think we've been successful at that. I think the Vines, putting this imagery in motion has really captured the imagination of a good number of folks, and that was my goal, was to use that imagery, put it in motion, and let people try to experience this, let them try to live this with me. And for that, I think it was great. But I do want to say, I know the next couple crews coming up here, and just wait, there are bigger and better things coming in the social media arena.
Well, I'll find that hard to believe, but I'll take your word for it. Reed, I'm out of time. Listen, have a great trip back, and best of luck.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. See ya.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the CBS Radio Network portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from WJZ-TV.
Station, this is WJZ-TV. How do you hear me? Station, this is WJZ.
I hear you muffled but readable.
But readable. But readable. But readable. But readable. But readable. But readable. But readable. But readable. But readable.
What a special interview this morning. Reed Wiseman joining us live from the ISS. Thank you so much for talking with us. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Hey, absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here talking with my hometown, and we've done it several times. It's great to see you again.
It's great to see you again.
So your time on the ISS is coming to an end. What will you miss the most?
Oh, I think I'm going to miss everything the most. I'm going to miss weightlessness. Floating around up here is absolutely fantastic. I will definitely miss the view outside, and I'll miss my 5 other crewmates. We've become quite a family up here, and it's great to work with these folks.
We got to watch your spacewalks live, and it was just incredible. Can you tell us what that's like? Walk us through it. Walk us through it.
Oh, I can tell you, it is. I'm not sure what it looks like on TV, but it's the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. There are moments of fear. There's moments of extreme excitement, and then looking out with just that tiny visor on at the Earth, everything is so vivid. It's so clear, much more clear than when we look through our thick glass windows here on the station. But I'll say it is a long day. We were in that suit outside for 6.5 hours, but even before we go outside, there's 4 hours of prep in the suit. So by the end of the day, you're physically exhausted. It's extremely hard work, both taxing mentally and physically.
This was your first space flight. Did reality live up to your expectations?
I was worried that I had put way too many expectations on this, but in the end, it blew them away. Just a first glimpse out right after launch of our Earth, and I already knew that everything was worth it. Everything was absolutely worth it.
Anything surprise you up there? Anything you did not expect? Anything surprise you?
Oh, I didn't expect, I'd say 90% of it. I went through training for a very long time, and when you come up to the International Space Station, this is a giant machine, and I came through the hatch and I realized that I didn't know anywhere near enough, because when you take gravity out of the situation and you start floating, it changes everything. So you can work upside down. It's hard to eat your food. It's confusing at times. You can get lost. Even though you've walked through this thing on Earth 100,000 times, you can still get lost up here. So in the end, just life initially was much more difficult than I thought, but now I know how to use the lack of gravity to my advantage. And just this morning, I was working on our toilet, which is a pretty routine task, and I couldn't get this connection to go. And then I thought, you know what? I'll just flip upside down, put my feet on the ceiling, and it worked like a cakewalk. So I'll miss that for sure.
We want to thank you for all the photos and videos that you shared with us on social media. Just these amazing photos, and the very first Vine sent from space in history. That was a big part of your journey, sharing it with all of us.
Oh, it definitely was a big part, but that was the easiest part. And in the end, it was really fun, because I almost have a journal documenting my entire time up here, so I can go back and look at that feed. And I was doing it the other day. I snuck onto the internet on my day off, and I was just looking, and it was really neat just to watch the progression throughout the entire flight and to see people's reaction. I really like that. So for me, this was a great kind of journaling documentation experience.
Once you're back on planet Earth, what are you looking forward to the most, and what's the first thing you're going to do?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get carried out of my spaceship, because it will be tough to walk. And then about 20 hours later, I should be back in Houston at home. And the first thing I want to do there is hug my wife and kids. I miss them way more than I expected, and so I'm very much looking forward to that. And then once life starts to settle down, I think I'm going to get a pizza, a soda perhaps, because I haven't had anything carbonated in a long time, and I just want to sit down in a chair. Haven't done that in a while either.
Baltimore's Reed Wiseman, such a pleasure talking to you, and we cannot wait to welcome you back home. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I can't wait to get there and see y'all. Take care.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you, CBS Radio Network and WJZ TV. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.